I just love seeing the three of them together, especially during their mealtime or dinner time. It just shows you how close and tight-knit this family is, and I love how involved they are in each other's lives. Obviously, Wei Qian is the protector, the guardian. He is the main provider and caretaker of this family. He really does his best to make sure that his siblings get everything that they need and are given the amount of care and love and support they deserve. And obviously, Wei Zhi Yuan tries his best to also help out his brother by standing in for him, attending their little sister's presentation as opposed to Wei Qian, because he understands that Wei Qian is doing all kinds of stuff and working and in school and doing his best to make sure that they have food on their table and that they're able to afford their monthly expenses and have a roof over their heads. So he recognizes his brother's hard work and the fact that he's not resting enough. So he tries his best to alleviate some of those responsibilities by taking on some of those responsibilities, like attending, again, their sister's presentation at school. And he even went as far as getting a job unbeknownst to his brother, just to kind of help out with expenses, or at least alleviate his brother's expenses by making sure that he gets his own money so that he wouldn't have to keep asking his brother for money. So he's very aware of the struggles that his brother continues to go through just to provide for them. So he got himself a part-time job. Unfortunately, that had negatively impacted his studies to a point where his teachers had to intervene. So as soon as Wei Qian found out about it, he immediately put a stop to it. He said, if you have time to get a job, then you have time to attend or join a club. So here, pick one. He encouraged him to be more focused on school, encouraged him to participate more in social activities at school. He even said that he was fine with him dating. He just wants him to do things that kids around his age do. I think he's trying to give him what he didn't get when he was at his age, because at the very young age, he was getting conflicting messages from his mom for doing well in school. But I think he's just really trying to compensate for what he wasn't given as a kid, which was the ability to do well in school and be rewarded for it. Luckily, Wei Zhi Yuan is very obedient when it comes to his brother, so he joins a club or sports, which was running or marathon, but it looks like he pushed himself beyond his limits and he overdid it in a way that it sent him to the hospital. Wei Zhi Yuan just seems like he wants to please his brother all the time, so much so that sometimes it comes across as, at least for me, it seems like he idolizes his brother, which there's nothing wrong with that. But because I already have an idea where Wei Zhi Yuan is going with this and how his feelings are going to eventually transition from brotherly to lovers, then it sends a different message to me. But then again, this could also just be Wei Zhi Yuan's way of showing gratitude to his brother and paying him back for everything that he's done for him, for taking him in, providing food and shelter for him, protecting him, raising him practically. So this could be just his way of saying, because you did all that to me, I'm gonna do my best to pay you back. So it could be that. But then again, this behavior just seems excessive right now. It's just a little tad bit excessive for me. Using his brother's date of birth as his phone password after he's repeatedly told him not to, and just being overly obedient. I don't know if that's a proper term to use, but it just seems a little excessive. Even Wei Zhi Yuan, towards the end of the episode, as he's a little bit older, he even acknowledged it, that his world revolves around him. I'm assuming he's referring to his older brother, and he couldn't exactly pinpoint when that feeling started, but he knows that it's there. Now, if I didn't know where Wei Zhi Yuan was going with this, if I didn't know that he was going to develop romantic feelings towards his brother, then I would have thought that little comment was just his way of returning the favor for, taking care of him. But because I know that he's going to develop some type of romantic feelings towards his older brother, then his statement of "my world revolves around you" makes me think that it's not just his way of paying him back. It's just so fascinating that somebody could feel that way towards a person who you initially viewed as your, first and foremost, your older brother, and somebody who's practically raised you and provided for you. For somebody to have that type of transitions in the way they view them and the way they feel towards them, it's fascinating. I guess I'll just have to wait and see. I am low-key kind of nervous but looking forward at the same time to that confessional scene when he finally tells his brother that he likes him. That's gonna be intense. And what is happening with Wei Qian? He seems to be having some type of medical issues, like throwing up and shit. And it seems like he has a very, very traumatic childhood, growing up in a very abusive environment, being exposed to what I think is a very extreme form of child abuse under the care of his mom. And it seems like there's a lot of inconsistencies in the way his mom treated him, punishing him for doing well in school, basically saying, how dare you do better than I ever did, and physically harming him, inflicting so much pain, but at the same time showing and expressing affection that must have felt so out of place for Wei Qian, for anybody as a kid. It's like, you're beating the crap out of me and now you're hugging me and telling me you love me. Like, something is not right there. That type of affection, that delivery of affection must have felt, again, so out of place for Wei Qian. He must have been so confused, and then continues to punish him for excelling academically. And then you couple that with hearing your mom say horrible things like, just the sight of you disgusts me, I hate you, why won't you die? All of that coming from your mom. That's gotta be traumatic, extremely traumatic. Never mind the physical injuries, the cuts, the bruises, the broken bones that he must have sustained from all the beating. Never mind all of that. That can heal over time. Still terrible, but they heal much, much faster than those hurtful words that have far-reaching effect. And it's very evident that he still continues to struggle with the emotional abuse that he's sustained from his own mother, you know, from somebody that was supposed to be his protector. I can't wrap my head around that. That is devastation. And again, it's very evident that he still continues to suffer from the abuse that he went through from his mom, because now that he's well into his adulthood, he's essentially a parent himself. He's a guardian to his siblings, but just a simple thought of what he went through makes his stomach turn. Imagine, and anything could trigger it. Just a sight of an earring of this girl that he was in a date with, but it reminded him of his mom's earring, which kind of had a domino effect. Just a simple earring could make him throw up. That's how ingrained it is in his brain and his memory that he can never shake it off. He can try to suppress it, but when he's in a place or environment where he can't control everything that goes on in it, then anything could just trigger it. Again, like a simple earring made him throw up. That's crazy. I felt so bad for Wei Qian. I can't even imagine hearing all those hurtful words from, again, somebody who gave birth to you, I would assume, from somebody who is supposed to be taking care of you and protecting you, and yet she was doing the complete opposite. You know, she was beating the shit out of him, making him feel bad for doing well, just abusing him. There's one particular scene there that really made me nervous, aside from everything else. When she was hugging him while he looked very uncomfortable, my mind just went all kinds of places. And I hope that my suspicion is not true, because if that is true, if she's also committing SA to her own child, I don't know. There's a special place in the worst possible place in this entire universe. There's a special place for somebody, a parent, who would do all those things plus that to their kids. I'm hoping that it's just my imagination, that it actually did not happen. But wow, what a childhood. I can't even imagine going through just a fraction of what he went through as a kid under the care of your own mother. And what happened to Wei Qian's mom? How did she end up that way? And it looks like she's also a victim of some sort of abuse herself. At the very least, physical abuse. There's some visible bruising on her arm. At some point, she looked really pale and weak and in desperate need of help. Who was doing that to her? Her partner, her husband, herself? Like who? How? I have so many questions. I'd be very interested in finding out more about her background and how, again, she turned out that way. What were the circumstances that led her to get to this point? I wonder how her parents treated her as a kid. You know, maybe this is some type of learned behavior, a cycle of violence of some sort, but I'd be very interested to find out her background and the circumstances that had led her to get to this point, to a point where she was willing to put her hands on her child and say those really horrible things to her child. I just want to know, like, where is this rage, this anger, where are these all coming from? And targeting her own child, her helpless little angel who was unable to protect and defend himself from the hands of his own caretaker. I just wanted to hug that little boy. Like, I wanted to take him away from his mom. He just looked so helpless, so tiny. That actor that played him looked very similar to my younger brother when he was that age. So watching that scene was very difficult for me because I just kept visualizing my little brother going through all of those things. Because I was my brother's caretaker when we were younger. Whenever our moms would have to leave the house and leave us pretty much the entire day to ourselves because she had to go find work. This was back home in the Philippines, so I would be the primary caretaker of him and our little sister. But that was a pretty common practice in the Philippines. It's just the way it was. But you know, I would never imagine putting my hands on my little brother, let alone like saying those things to him. Granted, you know, my headspace versus Wei Qian's mom's headspace were completely different. But just imagining him, my little brother, going through all of those things, I can't. You know, it's very difficult. That scene was very, very difficult to watch because it felt personal to me because I saw my brother and that little kid. So I'm like, no, come here. So Wei Qian has been through it and endured so much. I'm very impressed by Wei Qian's ability to use his traumatic experience, turn his life around in a way, do a complete 180 from what he's used to, because he could have easily just became an aggressive and abusive person in general, especially towards his little sister, because it's the only thing he's ever known. You know, it was done to me, I'm gonna do it to you. That's the easy route. Again, you know, a learned behavior, cycle of violence. But what he did instead was so impressive. He took a complete departure from what he was accustomed to. He made sure that that cycle of violence was broken, that it wouldn't extend beyond him, that it would end with him. So he became a very nurturing and protective brother, older brother to his siblings, the complete opposite of how he was treated by his mom. He's very nurturing, he's very loving, he encourages his siblings to do well in school, praise them for doing well in school, encourage them to participate in extracurricular activities, encourage them to be more active in their socialization with their peers, even suggesting that he's fine with his brother dating, and providing a safe, nurturing, and loving home and loving space for his siblings. I can't even overemphasize how incredibly impressive that is. Again, considering what he was shown as a kid, considering what he experienced as a kid in the hands of his own caretaker. So that's a complete 180, and I am beyond impressed that somebody who had gone through such a traumatic past is able to not only break that cycle but provide a much better environment for his siblings. Wei Qian is so strong physically, mentally, and is extremely resilient. I'm in awe. He's probably one of the strongest mentally, even physically, BL characters I've ever come across. Yeah, Wei Qian, definitely. I mean, he has to be. He's the primary caretaker of his younger siblings. He's trying to treat them the kind of treatment he wished he would have gotten from his own parent. He's really strong in a sense that he's able to do all kinds of other things while trying to keep all of those things, his past, his trauma, keep all of those things hidden from plain sight, because he has to keep them under control because he's a provider for his younger siblings, he's a protector. But unfortunately, even though he is as strong as he is, you know, he is a human being, and sometimes, especially going through what he went through, it's inevitable that he would come across certain things that would trigger and remind him of his painful past. Like, you know, a simple earring would cause him to throw up because that earring reminded him of his mom, and his mom did all kinds of horrible things to him. So just a simple thought of that just makes him want to hurl. It just shows you the severity of the trauma that he's endured and the severity of its long-term effect on him, because he's still going through it well into his adulthood. That's gotta be tough. That's gotta be tough. So now it looks like they're grown up. Wei Qian finally graduates from school, and then Wei Zhi Yuan now like towers over him. So things are changing and advancing. And with growth, with maturity, specifically for Wei Zhi Yuan, comes with the development of his feelings towards his brother. It seems like the attraction is beginning to intensify. It's gonna be at a very intense scene. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know which episode that is. Don't tell me. And thank you, by the way, for not spoiling this series for me. You guys have been so respectful and kind and patient with me, so thank you. That is it for us today. What do you think about this episode without any spoilers, please? What do you think of this episode? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, thank you so much for being here and thank you for your time. Before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss my next video. Until then, I will see you later.